You were not born into this life by accident. That pain you carry, the silent ache that no one seems to understand, the family you were born into, the heartbreaks you didn't deserve, the struggles that keep repeating like some invisible pattern stitched into your reality. What if I told you, you chose it? Yes, you. Not the you that wakes up each day wondering why life feels heavy. Not the you shaped by memory and fear, but the soul behind the eyes. The one who existed long before you were born, and who will still exist long after this body turns to dust. Before your first breath, before your first heartbeat, there was a moment where your soul sat at the edge of eternity, gazing down upon the timeline of the life you now live. And in that moment, you made choices, not out of punishment, not to suffer, but to grow, to heal, to awaken. Because the soul does not fear pain, it only fears stagnation. Somewhere beyond the veil of this physical world, in a realm untouched by time and gravity, there exists something few have ever seen, but every soul has touched. An ancient book, but not of paper, not of ink. A book written in light, etched in vibration. A book with only one author, you. Every soul has one. Yours sits quietly in the archives of divine memory, waiting to be remembered. And within it is every agreement, every intention, every lesson, every encounter, woven together with such sacred precision that not a single second of your life is wasted. You didn't land in this body by mistake. You weren't handed random parents, a random face, or a random set of circumstances. Your soul chose this because it knew exactly what it needed to evolve. But how do you remember what your human self was never meant to carry? You begin by feeling what stirs when you hear this, because something inside you already knows it's true. That deep pull towards certain people, that déjà vu you can't explain, that soul-level grief that doesn't match this life. These are not glitches in your story. They are echoes from the script you wrote long ago. Imagine now a realm of light so pure, so still, that thought itself becomes form. This is where your journey began, not in a womb, but in the in-between. Here, time does not move in lines. It blooms like petals from a single center point. Here, the soul sees all lifetimes at once. The past, the possible, the future. It sees who it's been. It sees what it has yet to become. And from this sacred vantage point, your soul said, "Now I am ready." Not for comfort, not for perfection, but for growth and for remembrance. With the guidance of higher beings, some call them spirit guides, others know them simply as wisdom itself, you opened your soul's book and began to write. This was not a dictation. It was a dance. What you wrote was not a fixed destiny, but a blueprint, an outline of sacred challenges and meaningful encounters, key moments designed not to test you, but to awaken you. You selected your family, not because they were perfect, but because their presence, however beautiful or broken, would activate something within you that no other arrangement could. You chose certain joys, moments of inexplicable beauty that would remind you of where you came from. And you chose certain pains, not as punishment, never as punishment, but as portals. Portals that once walked through would shatter illusions, strip away ego, and reveal something deeper, something eternal. You may wonder, why would any soul choose heartbreak, loss, or struggle? But the soul is not afraid of breaking. It knows that every shatter allows more light to come in. And it knows this, that on earth, there are lessons that cannot be learned in paradise. Forgiveness means nothing if there is no betrayal. Compassion means little without pain. Courage does not grow in stillness. It's forged in fire. And so, you chose a life that would awaken those qualities in you. Not instantly, but slowly. Through time, through patterns, through people. You made soul contracts, sacred agreements with others who, like you, were choosing their own journeys. Some you'd meet as friends, some as enemies. Some would break your heart wide open. Others would quietly teach you how to love yourself again. These souls would not always remember their roles, just like you would not remember yours. But together, you'd create the perfect alchemy for transformation. And then came the final step, the descent. To become human, you had to forget. That was the cost. To enter the body, you had to pass through the veil. It's the veil that makes you think you're alone, that your pain is meaningless, that life is random. But the truth is, the veil doesn't erase your book, it only hides it. And even now, your soul remembers. That quiet longing you've always felt, that subtle knowing that there's more to life than what you see, that's the whisper of your own book calling you home. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are walking a path you once laid with your own sacred hands. And even if you've strayed, even if you've forgotten the why behind your wounds, the book has not changed. It waits, it watches, it guides. And the fact that you're here now, listening, feeling something stir in the depths of your being, is proof that you're starting to remember. This is not the end of the story. In fact, it's only the first page. Before your name was ever spoken, before your mother felt your first movement within her, you were already awake, not in a body, but in the realm before form. What mystics call the pre-birth plane, what ancient scriptures hinted at but dared not name. It is a place no map can trace, a realm not bound by dimension or time, but by light, sound, memory, and will. There, you were not human. You were pure consciousness, brilliant, expansive, free, a thread of divine intelligence glowing in the fabric of eternity. And in that state, you remembered everything. You remembered the lifetimes you had lived, the ones where you loved so deeply it split the sky, the ones where you harmed and were harmed, the ones where you turned away from your own light, and the ones where you followed it until it burned through every illusion. In this realm, you saw it all. You walked back through your past choices, not as a punishment, but as a sacred reflection. You felt what others had felt through you. You watched the ripple of your words, your intentions, your silence. Not to judge, never to condemn, but to understand. Because only when the soul understands can it evolve. This is where your next chapter began. Not with a birth, but with a remembrance. You stood among beings of light, some who had traveled with you through lifetimes, some who had guided from beyond the veil. They did not instruct you. They asked you, what do you still need to learn? What patterns are you ready to break? What soul fragments long to return to wholeness? And with every question, your soul answered not with words, but with vision. You began to shape the outline of your next life. Not a rigid plan, but a soul sketch, a vibrational blueprint. You chose the soil you would be planted in, not just the country, but the energy. Not just the body, but the limitations it would carry. Not just the name, but the meaning it would hold. Every detail was intentional, not perfect, but precise. You saw your future mother, not just her face, but her pain, her strength, her lineage. You felt the echo of her womb, what it would feel like to grow inside her. to inherit her blood, her fears, her love. You saw your father, the role he would play, the absence he might leave, the karmic threads you still shared. And you knew, this is what I need to evolve. You did not choose an easy life. No soul does. You chose a powerful one. And into that power, you wove people. Familiar souls. Some who had walked with you before. Lovers, rivals, children, mentors. From the divine tapestry of soul connections, you formed contracts. Sacred agreements of mutual awakening. Not all would be kind. Some would trigger your deepest wounds. Some would break you open so that you could remember your light. But you agreed. All of it. Because you knew the purpose behind the pain. These contracts weren't made lightly. They were forged in the fire of truth. You asked, "Who will teach me forgiveness?" And a soul stepped forward. "I will, by betraying you." You asked, "Who will teach me self-worth?" And another came. "I will, by rejecting you." "Who will help me remember love?" A gentle soul smiled. "I will, by loving you so fully that you finally see yourself." And the moment each agreement was made, the blueprint began to hum with vibration, a field of possibility charged with soul intention. But even then, you knew. You would forget. That was the sacred condition of incarnation. To pass through the veil, to fall asleep to who you are, and wake up piece by piece. The veil was not a punishment. It was a gift. Without it, the lessons would be rehearsed, not lived. Without it, you'd remember the pain before the experience, and avoid the very thing that would free you. So your soul, in its divine courage, agreed to forget, to descend, to be born, to feel lost, until it didn't. And then, something extraordinary happened. Before the descent, you were led to the book of memory, your own record. It glowed with the light of lifetimes. It pulsed with the codes of your evolution. And it was sealed until the time was right. You would carry its echo into the world, not as words, but as instinct, as feeling, as that quiet pull toward people and places that seemed familiar, as the dream that lingers like a song half remembered, as the moment a stranger's eyes stop your heart, and you know them. You would not remember the plan, but the plan would remember you. It would unfold in every step you took, even in your resistance, even in your rebellion. Because there is no path that can stray from what the soul has chosen to learn, only longer routes and deeper awakenings. And so, with every contract sealed, every vision chosen, you stood at the edge of the realm. You looked back one last time at the truth of who you are. The unbreakable, eternal being made of stardust and source. And then, you leapt. Through the veil, into the womb, into forgetfulness, into this life. And now, something in you is stirring. A memory not of the mind, but of the soul. You're not just learning, you're remembering. And with each word, with each breath, your book begins to open again. Not everything in your life is random. In fact, very little is. The moment you chose to incarnate, you didn't come alone. Before stepping into this world, you stood in a realm where soul met soul, and promises were made. We call them soul contracts, but they are not like the contracts of earth. They are not legal. They are not forced. They are not punishment. They are sacred. You created them with beings you've loved across lifetimes. Some you've hurt, some who've hurt you, some who walk beside you every time, because they always will. And together, you made decisions. You looked at one another and said, "Will you help me learn this? Will you remind me who I am? When I forget? Will you love me in this life? Will you break me open so I can finally heal? And the other soul replied, not with words, but with deep knowing. Yes, I will. These contracts are not always easy. They are not always kind, but they are always for your highest evolution. Because when souls love each other that deeply, they are willing to play any role necessary to bring one another home. Some of them came to play the lovers, to awaken your heart, to remind you what it means to feel God through another human being. Some came to play the betrayers, not because they hated you, but because they agreed to be the catalyst for your deepest awakening. And some came to play the background roles, quiet presences who never left your side. The friend who showed up when you had nothing left. The stranger who said the right thing at the right moment. The teacher who planted a seed you wouldn't understand until years later. These were not coincidences. They were agreements, written in light, signed in love, sealed by intention. Before incarnation, you sat with these souls in what many call the Council of Design, an energetic gathering where karmic threads are reviewed, choices are discussed, and soul growth is mapped. You looked at one another, not as strangers, but as ancient companions. You said, I will be your parent in this life. I may not know how to love you well, but my absence will teach you strength. I will come into your life briefly, cause chaos, and leave. But in the aftermath, you will finally meet yourself. I will be your child. I may not stay long, but for the time I'm here, I will unlock a part of your heart you thought was dead. These contracts were not made from ego. There is no revenge in the soul realm. Only growth. Only truth. Only love that stretches itself into the most uncomfortable shapes so that another soul can awaken. And the most powerful thing? You agreed to forget it all. That's what makes it real. Because if you remembered every soul's role from the start, you wouldn't learn forgiveness. You wouldn't discover your own strength. You wouldn't truly love, because there would be no risk. So you allowed yourself to forget. To look into the eyes of someone you once held in eternity and not know who they are, but feel something stir, that magnetic pull, that sense of recognition, that knowing beyond logic. Those are the fingerprints of a soul contract. Some contracts last a lifetime, some just a few seconds, but all of them, every single one, is meaningful. Even the painful ones, especially the painful ones, because pain is a sacred force in the soul's journey, not the kind that breaks you down for sport, but the kind that cracks you open, so light can finally reach the parts you've kept buried. Your greatest wounds? They often come from the souls who love you the most at the highest level, because only those souls can reach you where it truly matters. Only they can play the villain in your story, so you can rise into the hero. This isn't easy to accept. It's easier to stay angry, to see life as random cruelty. But when you begin to remember, when the veil starts to lift, something changes. You stop asking, why did they do this to me? And you begin to ask, what did my soul come here to learn through them? That shift is where your power returns. Not all soul contracts are filled with conflict. Some are lifelines. Some are soulmates. That friend you call in crisis, the one who knows you without explanation. That may be a soul you've traveled with for centuries. Someone who vowed to find you in every lifetime, no matter how far you strayed. Or that partner who came when you finally stopped looking. The one who feels like home. They might be the reward of many hard-earned lifetimes, a reflection of your own soul now matured. And sometimes, the most profound contract of all is the one you have with yourself. You promised yourself things in the in-between, to speak your truth, to break the cycles your ancestors could not, to choose love in a world that taught fear, to remember who you are, no matter how long it takes. And here you are, keeping that promise. Every time you choose healing over blame, growth over resentment, self-awareness over reaction, you are honoring your soul contract. And even when you forget, even when you fall back asleep, your soul never stops nudging you. That dream that won't leave you alone. That feeling that there's more to this life than you've been told. That strange connection to a person you barely know. These are whispers from the sacred agreements you made before you came here. They are not haunting you. They are guiding you. Because your soul does not want perfection. It wants evolution. It wants remembrance. And it will keep sending you the people, the patterns, and the signs until you awaken, again and again. So the next time someone breaks you, ask yourself, what did I come here to learn through them? The next time someone loves you unconditionally, pause and wonder, how many lifetimes did we take to find each other again? And the next time you look in the mirror and feel the weight of your story, whisper back, I remember. I chose this, and I am still choosing. You were born into this world, forgetting. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a glitch in your memory. It was part of the sacred design. To pass through the veil of forgetting is to become fully human, to descend from eternal awareness into temporary amnesia, to walk blindly into the story your soul had already written, knowing only that somewhere deep inside, a compass still points home. And that's where you've been, wandering, wondering, remembering in pieces, because without the veil, there is no journey. There is only remembrance. But the soul craves evolution. It wants to discover truth, not be handed it. It wants to become light through experience, not concept. And so, it chose to forget the contracts, to forget the map, to forget the book it wrote, so that every moment of awakening would feel like a miracle. And yet, beneath the forgetting, nothing is truly lost. Your soul has always been speaking to you, in symbols, in synchronicities, in strange magnetic pulls toward certain people, places, or dreams. But often, we mistake the signs for noise. We miss the language of the soul because we were never taught to listen. Instead, we call it coincidence. We call it confusion. We call it chaos, especially when it hurts. But here is the truth your soul came here to remember. Pain is not proof that you are off your path. More often than not, pain is the path. Because in the soul's language, pain is not punishment. It's pressure. Pressure that cracks the shell of identity, so the light you forgot you had can begin to escape. When the soul writes its blueprint, it doesn't seek a life of ease. It seeks impact, transformation. And often, that means writing in moments of loss, of betrayal, of breaking. Because those are the moments that bring you back to yourself. Think about it. What woke you up? Was it comfort? Or was it the night you collapsed into the dark and felt something greater calling you to rise? That heartbreak that shattered you. It was not just a human tragedy. It was a soul alarm, a scheduled jolt to bring you back to your sacred path. That repeating relationship pattern, the one that always ends the same way, that's not bad luck. It's a mirror, showing you what you still need to heal. That illness that forced you to stop, that wasn't random. It was your body becoming the voice of your soul, because you hadn't been listening. And even your dreams, the ones that return again and again with the same symbols, they are whispers from your own book, clues written in your own language. You were never abandoned. You were being spoken to. But most of us were taught to fear the dark, to avoid pain, to numb, distract, or push it away. And in doing so, we miss the gold. Because pain is a teacher, not the kind that scolds, but the kind that sits silently beside you, holding out a lesson, waiting for you to look. You see, your soul encoded your life with sacred breadcrumbs, signs, synchronicities, emotional echoes, each one designed to guide you back to the truth, that you are not a victim of this life. You are the architect of it. You chose it. And even now, you are still choosing. In the silence after betrayal, you choose whether to close your heart or open it wider than ever before. In the aftermath of loss, you choose whether to become bitter or become wise. In every moment of confusion, you choose whether to numb out or lean in. And in those tiny choices, you either remember your soul or delay it. There is no punishment, only pathways, only invitations. The pain you feel is not a wall, it is a doorway. And every time you move through it with awareness, your soul expands, the veil thins, and you begin to see not just what's happening, but why it's happening. Have you ever had a moment where time stood still, where everything suddenly felt orchestrated? A chance meeting, a book falling off a shelf, a sentence someone said that pierced your heart in exactly the way you needed. These are not accidents. They are activations. Your soul knew this life would be hard to remember. It knew the world would try to make you forget. And so, it planted memories in motion. Moments that would shake you, wake you, and remind you, this is not chaos. This is choreography. The argument that pushed you to walk away from a job? The breakup that made you finally face your worth? The illness that made you change your entire lifestyle? All of them. Soul-designed plot points meant to break the trance of forgetting. And yet, you still have free will. You can ignore the signs. You can stay asleep. You can run from the pain and blame the world. But the soul is patient, and it will try again, and again, and again. Not because it wants you to suffer, but because it wants you to wake up. And in those rare moments where you do, when you sit in silence, when you forgive someone who doesn't deserve it, when you cry without knowing why, you feel it, don't you? That softness, that stillness, that strange sense of home, even in the ache. That is your soul, remembering itself. That is the veil, beginning to lift. And slowly, you start to realize you were never broken. You were being broken open. Your pain was never punishment. It was preparation. Your confusion was never failure. It was recalibration. You are not lost. You are in the middle of a sacred remembering. And the more you embrace the patterns, the more you listen to the language beneath your life, the more clearly you hear the voice that never stopped speaking. You chose this. You are ready. Keep going. If everything was chosen, then why do you still suffer? If the soul planned the pain, why does it hurt so much? These are the questions that haunt the waking mind. But the soul speaks in different terms. Because what we call suffering, the soul often calls unfolding. And what we call failure, the soul recognizes as cause and effect. A sacred law we've known for lifetimes. Karma. It's a word that's been misused, misunderstood, and diluted. Often seen as punishment, as divine revenge, as a cosmic scoreboard keeping tally of wrongs and rights. But karma is none of these things. It is not personal. It is not cruel. It is simply response. Karma is the reflection your soul creates from every thought, every action, every intention, so it can understand itself more deeply. Think of it as energy in motion, not reward or punishment, but rhythm. When you cause pain, that pain will return, not to harm you, but to teach you what your choices create. When you give love, you will meet it again, because your energy shaped a space for it to flow back to you. And this law of return is not limited to this life. Your soul is far older than this body, and karma weaves through lifetimes like thread in a tapestry. Sometimes, the echo of your actions returns in minutes, sometimes in years, and sometimes across centuries, because time doesn't erase karma, only consciousness does. And this is where your true power lies, because karma is not fate. You are not doomed to repeat the past. You are not stuck in an unchangeable loop. You have something more powerful than karma, free will. Yes, you chose this life. Yes, you wrote the blueprint. But that blueprint is not a prison. It is a canvas. The events may be outlined, but how you respond is yours to decide. And every response rewrites the pattern. That's the paradox of the soul's journey. You wrote the story, but you also hold the pen. Free will is the sacred tool that lets you shift karma, to change your direction, to break cycles your ancestors couldn't, to feel pain and choose compassion, to be betrayed and choose forgiveness, to be hurt and not pass that hurt forward. Every time you do that, you dissolve lifetimes of karmic weight. You send new energy forward and back, because karma isn't linear, it's holographic. Your choices now don't just change the future, they begin to heal the past. Your inner peace sends ripples backward to the versions of you still stuck in survival, and it tells them, you made it. You're free now. That's how powerful your present moment is. It's not just where you exist, it's where your soul reclaims itself. And in every moment, you are being given that chance again. Think about the patterns in your life. The same kind of relationship over and over. The financial struggles that feel inherited. The fears that make no sense but never go away. The deep guilt, even when you did nothing wrong. These are karmic imprints. They are not curses. They are unfinished stories. Chapters waiting for resolution. And you are the one your soul chose to write the ending. You are the one with the awareness to finally stop the repetition, to bring presence to pain, to bring light to shadow, to bring choice, where before there was only reaction. This is how karma evolves into wisdom, and this is how the soul becomes free. Because karma will not stop you from living your life, but it will keep bringing the same lessons until you learn them, not as punishment, as grace. Because the soul doesn't want to avoid discomfort. It wants to master the vibration behind it. If you avoid anger, you cannot transmute it into clarity. If you avoid fear, you cannot birth courage. If you avoid shame, you cannot find liberation. And so karma is not what you deserve. It's what your soul requested, as the perfect classroom for your becoming, and free will is what lets you graduate. But here's the most sacred part. You are never doing this alone. Every soul you meet is also playing out their own karma and free will. And sometimes, your paths cross because your lessons intertwine. Your mother's pain might be karmic, but your response to her can begin the healing for both of you. Your partner's betrayal may be their own loop, but your forgiveness may be the first crack in the wall of shame they've built. Your silence may be the space another soul needs to hear their own higher self for the first time. You're not just affecting your own story. You're rippling across soul contracts, lineages, timelines. You are not just healing for yourself. You are healing for countless souls who share your frequency. And when you choose differently, you signal something powerful to the universe. I'm ready. I see the pattern. I bless it. I break it. And in that moment, a karmic chain that has existed for lifetimes may dissolve completely. This is the secret they never told you. Not in school, not in church, not in the noise of this world. You are not a victim of your karma. You are its artist. You can learn through pain or through presence. You can awaken through loss or through love. You can repeat the same story, or you can write a new one. And when you do, something extraordinary begins to happen. You start to notice. Synchronicity increases. Obstacles move faster. Emotional weights lift without explanation. And old triggers no longer pull you under. This isn't magic. This is what happens when your vibration shifts, when your choices align with your soul, not your wounds. And in those moments, karma becomes not a cycle, but a springboard. Free will becomes not a burden, but a blessing. And your life, your ordinary, flawed, beautiful life, becomes the sacred bridge between lifetimes of forgetting and the lifetime of remembering. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when remembering becomes inevitable, when the whispers grow louder than the world, when the pain no longer breaks you, it guides you, when the patterns no longer trap you, they teach you. And you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin to ask, "What is awakening in me through this?" That is the moment your soul begins to return. It doesn't happen all at once. It's not a flash of lightning. It's softer than that, quieter, more sacred. It's the way your breath deepens when you stop running from yourself. It's the silence that wraps around you in a moment of stillness. And you realize, I've been here before. It's the sudden flood of tears that comes out of nowhere. Not from sadness, but because some part of you just came home. This is soul remembrance. Not intellectual, not something you read or learn. It's cellular, it's ancestral, it's divine. You start to see your life differently. The pain becomes a map, the people, mirrors, the choices, sacred pivots. And something inside you says, I know this. I've always known this. You walk differently. You speak with more intention. You stop performing for a world that rewards forgetting and start living for the soul that came here to remember. You start loving people not because they fill your wounds, but because you see the soul inside them, even the ones who hurt you. You don't forget the betrayal, but you stop needing to carry it. You don't forget the grief, but you stop resisting its medicine. You understand now. The ones who left were part of the plan. The ones who stayed are part of the healing. And the one you're becoming was always part of the design. You begin to trust again. Not blindly, not naively, but soulfully. Because now you see how it's all connected. The missed train that led you to a stranger. The heartbreak that forced you to move cities. The book that fell off the shelf. The dream that kept returning. The child you lost. The voice that whispered, not this. Not anymore. None of it was random. None of it was wasted. Because the soul wastes nothing. It recycles everything. Pain becomes prophecy. Delay becomes redirection. Loss becomes light. And you become someone you barely recognize. Because you're no longer remembering who the world told you to be. You're remembering who you were before the world told you anything at all. That is the sacred moment. When your soul stops surviving and starts expressing. No more hiding. No more shrinking. No more apologizing for your light. You begin to speak the language of truth. You say no without guilt. You say yes without fear. You feel without numbing. You walk away without bitterness. And for the first time, you begin to live your life as if you chose it. Because you did. And you start to hear the voice of your book again. Not in words, but in alignment. You meet someone new and feel the contract. You face an old trigger and feel the lesson complete. You stand at a crossroads and feel your soul nudge you left, even if logic says right. And you trust it. You trust yourself. Not the you that was conditioned, but the you that was created. The eternal one, the glowing one. The soul that wrote a blueprint not for perfection, but for purpose. You came here to remember, not just once, but in layers. Every time you forgive, you remember. Every time you create something from pain, you remember. Every time you choose peace over reaction, you remember. And one day, you look in the mirror, and the ache is gone. Not because life got easier, but because your vision got clearer. You no longer need every answer. You no longer fight every shadow. You no longer chase love. Because now you see, you are the answer. You are the light. You are the love. And from that space, life begins to meet you differently. New people appear, resonant, awake, alive. Old cycles fade. Opportunities align. Synchronicities flood in like constellations rearranging themselves to match your frequency. Because you're no longer broadcasting the pain of forgetting. You're radiating the light of remembrance. And that changes everything. You become the bridge, the portal, the guide. Not because you have it all figured out, but because you're living from the book your soul wrote. And others will feel it. They'll ask you, why do I feel calm around you? Why do I feel like I've known you forever? And maybe you'll smile and say, because you have. Maybe you'll look in their eyes and feel the ancient memory of a soul contract signed long ago. And maybe, just by being who you are, you'll help them remember too. Because that's what awakening is. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's the soul finally speaking louder than the noise. And once you hear it, you can never unhear it. You become the book, living, breathing, remembering. So let this moment be a return. Let it be the page where the forgetting ends and the becoming begins. Not because you have to, but because you're ready. You always were. If this journey stirred something deep within you, it wasn't an accident. Your soul brought you here. Let that be your sign. If it resonates, let it ripple. Share it with someone who's searching. Comment what your soul is remembering. And above all, keep going. Your story is not over. It's just beginning.